Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Season 7 of the FRS, the final round of Season 7. We are here in Suzuka, Japan for lucky number 13. Here is the circuit itself, 5.8 kilometers around, 18 corners, just the one short DRS zone down the pit straight, the classic figure of 8 style track. Very few on the overtaking opportunities, but you've got to make them stick. It now becomes the 4th track to host an FRS season finale. It joins Interlagos, Silverstone, and the Red Bull Ring to host that season finale. Turn 1 is your biggest action zone of the circuit, of course, at the end of the DRS straight. Not a huge braking zone, but you can get a good run, and then having that rear wing flipped open definitely helped. And of course, the Casio Triangle, the final sequence of corners, turns 16, 17, and that sweeper down the hill of 18. Hard braking zone after 130R is the next best overtaking opportunity. As far as the dry tire compound, soft, medium, and hard, as always. The medium about 0.6 of a second slower per lap than the softs. The hards about 1.3 seconds slower than the softs per lap. And as far as lifetime goes, softs will get about 8 laps into this 25 lap race. Mediums will do about 15 and hards about 20. Of course, that is very setup dependent, and you can really punish the front tires if you are not careful around this particular track because of the S section at the beginning. Now, as far as the championship picture, we come in down in P4. And we need a win absolutely in order to take the championship. So we have to win this race, and also we need Gali to finish no better than P7. So it is very much an uphill climb in this season finale. We're going to do what we can to try and grab the race victory and do our best in this final round and see if anything goes our way. But it is looking like Robin, Gali, Chronicle, really the main players for the championship, so we'll have to see how that shakes out. Now, sorry for the delay in getting this one out. There was a stewards inquiry that affected the end result, and then an appeal of that in the end that stood on the original decision. So I wanted to wait for that to be all done because it is kind of the end of the season, and it could have had implications into the final standings. So we are out on the first flying lap of the final race of the season through the S section here, and we are looking to try and put ourselves in the best qualifying place as we can, make it as easy as we can for that race win that we absolutely need. Now, one thing I was having trouble with even in practice running was I was punishing the front tires quite a bit. I never really got a setup that was totally dialed in. So I was a little bit behind the 8 ball compared to other drivers on front tire wear. So I wasn't able to extend them so much. However, pace was very good in the practicing that I felt pretty confident coming in. See, one of the first out on track, I believe we're actually the first to be on a flying lap. So we should be just be setting the early pace. I don't think nobody's on the timing tower just yet, but here we go through 130R, this quick left-hander flat out in dry conditions, and now finding the braking point just ahead of the 100-meter board into the Casio Triangle. Make sure not to lock up, flick the car right, flick it left, and try and modulate the throttle. You can hit a little bit of a bump down the hill. We cross the line 130.074, so nearly into the 29s with the first visit of asking. So we'll jump back out. Chronicle has gone a little bit quicker than us. We're sitting provisionally P2 at the moment. And we will be out for our second flying lap. See if we maybe catch some of these cars up ahead. They aren't too far up. But a little bit of a better run in through turn 1 and turn 2, gaining a fair chunk of time. And now just trying to commit through the S's. A little bit wide in turn 4, but it is better than our first run. So a little bit of a fairly big snap there through that long right-hander. Cost us a lot of time because that's all momentum through this whole section. So we had a big chance to improve through Sector 1. Still purple in Sector 1, so we are the quickest overall thus far. A little bit slow through the 2 Degners, the right-handers, now into the hairpin. Find the braking point, get the car rotated. And that time we got through there pretty well, about even on the actual exit itself as far as speed. But we did get through the apex quite a bit quicker. So we found about 1/10 and a half now. Now through Spoon, this double left-hander. Quick, rotate the car, slow down a little bit more, wait until you get on the power, and hold down as quick as you can. Now we head up the hill where we're going to cross over the bridge after Degner 2, and then through 130R. So a second purple sector in the middle, so we are going quickest overall. We've got about a 1.5 tenths over Chronicle's best time as well, and now through the Casio Triangle, a much better run through that chicane than our first go, so we are going to find nearly 3 tenths. Now we'll go to a 29.779 to put us just about 3 tenths ahead of Chronicle here in the mid going of this one. So, jumping out onto the circuit for the final flying lap of the season. Chronicle has gone a little bit quicker than us and is in the provisional pole catbird seat, so to speak. So, a little bit wide through turns 1 and 2 has cost us a little bit of time. We were going to carry a little bit of momentum into the S's, but now we're just really pushing and going full send. Much more tidy through turn 4 and 5 and 6 this time, so we should find a little bit of time that... because of that big snap we had in our previous best lap, a little bit of a slide coming out of turn 7 there, and now into Degner 1. Decent run through there. Degner 2, get the car slowed down for that tighter run and get on the power. We are purple through the first sector, so we found a considerable amount of time now, about 3 tenths. So we are looking to go fairly low, but we did have a very good final sector in our second run, so it is going to be something that we need to keep up with, and that had been probably my most inconsistent corner as far as lap time goes. You can see losing a bit of time through Spoon, just not quite taking to the track limits as much as needed. Stayed a little too far inside in that middle part of Spoon. And we are still about 2 tenths up, but no purple in the second sector, just staying ahead of our personal best now. And now into the final chicane. Little early on the brakes, you can see we bled a lot of time under braking. We're going to try and get the throttle down on the exit. We are going to find about a tenth of a second as we cross the line, and it's going to leave us just at 29.660. You can see 100th of a second shy of Chronicle's best run, and it looks like I don't believe Chronicle is going to improve on this one. So final qualifying session of the season, and that is the checkered flag waving. I'm just trying to see if I can catch anybody else. Robin goes up into third. Robin was having connection issues all throughout qualifying. So for the man who has the second best opportunity to win the championship, he is not off to a lucky start. But 100th of a second, which I believe might be one of the closest qualifying gaps in all of FRS ever, especially for pole position. So we start on the front row. Robin starts third. Chuck in fourth. Gully down in fifth. Ayag in sixth. Stolen Valor on the grid today in seventh. Peter Ward. Then you have Zhao. Our teammate Dog did not set a time, nor did Furionics, so they'll be starting from the back of the grid. But here we are on the grid on the hard compound tires. 5 red lights are up. And it's lights out, and away we go. Chronicle gets away at the initial start, but we get a much better second phase. I think he got some mid-wheel spin. So Robin's going around the far outside. He's got the medium tires on, so we got to stay to the inside a bit. But we've managed to get P1 down into turn 1, which is exactly what we need. Even though we didn't get it on we didn't get into pole position, we have gotten ourselves out into the lead of the race. Now Robin on those medium tires is going to be a threat at this stage of the race. He's got plenty of extra grip, but he's at least gapping us back to a Chronicle. But the man I'm really concerned about, Gali, down in 5th place. So we need somebody down in the pack to kind of fight with him, maybe tangle with him. Because on pure pace alone, I think he's only got to come 7th, and it shouldn't be too difficult for him to reach that there. So we do have Robin on the back end. As we've seen a few times throughout the season, Robin very good on the brakes, especially when he's got that step softer tires. So he makes up a lot of ground on the brakes, but when we're leading, we can just kind of delay power on the apex and get the better exit away from him. We are going to burn a fair bit of battery to start this one to try and create that 1 second gap that we need to be out of DRS range. Recharge is decent around here. I think you gain about 12% per lap if you don't use your overtake. So we do definitely have the opportunity to be a little bit more liberal with our use of the overtake button. And you will see I do that in different phases of the race where I'm either pushing or trying to conserve. A little wide through turns 1 and 2 that time, but We got about 7/10 of a second on Robin this time after one lap. So we are getting close to that 1 second margin. Feeling, like I said, pretty confident in my pace in the practices. I was scrubbing those front tires pretty hard. I was pushing fairly hard, but the hards could definitely take it. Really what it comes down to is, as we've seen so many times this season, is a safety car going to ruin my strategy? So that's usually what I'm concerned about. Robin gaining a little bit back as we head through some of the braking zones, but, trying not to lock up. And Robin right there, straight on, had a disconnect right there, but his AI didn't take over. We were lucky to not get shunted by him into the back. But, yeah, you see Robin left the session. So, unfortunate for Robin, the connection issues persist. His car goes off the circuit. It looks like not a full retirement, though, but he has dropped all the way to near the back of the race. There is some dots going through Degner just now, which I believe is Dog and Peter Ward, who I think have tangled, the teammates of myself and Chronicle. So they had a little bit of a tangle on lap 1, so they're a little bit off the back. But coming through now, we have a 1.5 second margin to Chronicle. We set the fast lap of the race on lap 2, as you would expect, because you're not coming from a standing start. But 33.879 is a decent lap, as we are just kind of settling into the rhythm. Trying to, at this stage now, since we've gotten out of the DRS, just keep an eye on that gap up above to ourselves in Chronicle. And try and maybe regen a little bit of battery. Since I'm about 60%, I'm targeting almost even usage. Most of the time I was burning purely on the exit of Spoon to give a really good run up the hill to 130R. That seemed to be the best place to burn off a lot of the batteries. Sector 1, there's not a whole lot of opportunities to burn up the battery. There is a little bit of a spot here after you come out of the hairpin where you can dump a fair bit of battery, but it's a long sweeper and it's not a huge gain in lap time. So into Spoon we go, still a little bit wide of the apex there, and of course strict track limits, we're gonna have to be a little bit concerned of that. But you can see coming out, you can see there's where the overtake switches on. Burned it down to 60%, use up about 5% of that battery, and then let the natural decay. And so we are kind of in a regen mode. I wanted to get it around 70% or so. As even without burning all that battery, you can see we've now opened up the gap to 2.3 seconds to Chronicle. So we are still gaining some time on him, even without using a lot of our overtake buttons. So 33.959, a little slower than our second lap, but a lot less overtake usage. So jumping ahead now, lap 7 of 27, about a quarter of the way through this race. 3.1 seconds the gap to Chronicle, as we are up to 73% battery. So we've got plenty on board to deploy as needed, but we're just kind of settling in case we need to make a hard push lap at some point, or if a mistake is made, we need to really grow the gap right back up. So that is kind of what we're targeting at this point. We're just kind of settled into the rhythm as the tires are falling off just a little bit at this stage. And it looks like I out of the session, and that is a full safety car called. So full safety car is deployed. A little upsetting, a little disappointing. It is much too early for the one-stop pit window. For me at least. The medium tire, as we said, only about 14 laps to the good, and we've got about 20 laps to go. You can see the suggested strategy is going on to a two-stop. And the other upsetting thing is I had stored so much battery up, which is essentially free lap time. And now it doesn't matter because the field is going to be closed back up, and I had a lot of battery on board. So could have used up a fair bit of it maybe and gotten out to a potential advantage. But we are opting to just stay out on this one, as will Chronicle. Chuck is going to come into the pit lane, so the Ferrari is going to grab those medium tires started on the hards. So it is in a good window, though, for those who started on mediums to go to the hards and get to the end of the race. So there is some opportunity there, but we're going to jump ahead now. Lap 10 of 27. Chronicle in P2, Gali P3, Zhao, another race winner in Canada in P4. Chuck, you can see on those medium tires in P5. And as we've done several times, Chronicle right behind us, just kind of, he's an aggressive driver on restarts, so we're just kind of actually keeping an eye on the mirror. You see he pushes kind of into the chicane. We have a big moment. The back end steps out. We have to kind of back out, like get out of the throttle. So we were kind of waiting for him as he closed up into the chicane, and then we kind of have to wait for him to check up, as we've done several times this season. But a big slide, trying to get on the power, cold tire things, especially the hard tires, so hard to generate heat at the slow safety car speeds. You have to keep the pressures fairly low around here because you're putting so much energy into the tires at racing speed. But when you're at safety car paces, really doesn't put a whole lot of energy in. So it looks like Robin has retired from race. He says he was DSQ'd. I think he ended up parked in a weird spot in the pit lane, which sadly was just kind of the way this weekend was going for him with all the connection issues. So it was a bit of a bummer, but we are burning quite a lot of our overtake, trying to get that 1 second gap back to Chronicle once again, so we can be out of DRS. Of course, when the safety car comes in, full safety car means 3 more laps before DRS is re-enabled. But at this point, our target pit lap is lap 15, and I'm trying to grow as much of a gap as I can to the field, because those who came in on the mediums, Chuck, specifically that I can see on my timing sheet, may be able to stretch those mediums to the end. It's kind of a tall tale or a tall ask, but if he can get those to the end, then it's going to create a chase down situation when we come in. So trying to just build up as much of a gap to the field so we can try and pit, come out in some clean air, and then start making our way through the field. We do set fastest lap of the race on that one because we are pushing quite hard. Go down to a 33.063 now. Not quite dipping into the 32s just yet, but we are now, sadly, with the safety car carrying a little bit of extra fuel weight on board. But I never wanted to fully under fuel, as it looks like Furionics is retiring in the pit lane, so no safety car will be called out. But I never really under-fueled the cars at all. I always kind of kept it at most on the level, but here we are jumping ahead, lap 15 of 27. We are on our pit window. We've got a 2.5 second gap to Chronicle. It's about 7 seconds back to Chuck. You lose about 23, 24 seconds in the pit lane here, so we should come out behind our teammate Dog, who is on the medium tires. And at least this week had a little bit of a message with Dog, since it was potentially for the championship. So there's an understanding this week, and I expect that he should let me through and then become quite the rear gunner on Chronicle. But Golly into the pit lane, Chronicle into the pit lane, all into the pit lane with us. So Chuck is out and through, and it looks like the other Red Bull is in, as is the Aston Martin. So Dog stays out on track. You can see him going by on those hard compound tires. Out of the pit lane we go, and now we have to get these medium tires up to racing temperature. So we made actually a little bit of time on pit entry and exit to Chronicle. Now the gap 3.3 seconds, and we have about 15 seconds to catch up to Chuck in about 10.5 laps. So it's going to be quite the effort that we need to put in. Dog about 2 seconds ahead of us, although he is still growing that gap because our tires are not yet up to temperature, as is Chuck. But at this point, I'm thinking Chuck's probably got to make a pit stop again in this race. 20 laps is a long time to take the medium tires, and hope they don't pop. But I was, keeping it in my head that maybe he just Hail Marys it, tries to stretch it to the end. It's his best opportunity to try and get a race win. 14.8 seconds is a healthy margin. So I am trying to play my battery to a smart level at this point. I'm trying to get some regen available, not use up too much of the battery, since we are relatively safe and clear from Chronicle. We are a little behind, about 1 second off the back of Dog. Not quite close enough, I don't think, for DRS just yet, so he will maintain the lead ahead of us. So I don't use any overtake. I'm not going to try and close up to him here. I'm not close enough to really need him to dive out of the way coming through the S's. The dirty air is not that bad. and I picked a little bit of a slipstream off him down the pit straight. But we are closing up fairly decently to the back of Dog. We do have that softer compound of tire on board. And now catching right up to the gearbox. We expect he should jump out of the way here. And yeah, he moves over to the right on the way into the Degners. And through we go. Our teammate now the buffer between ourselves and Chronicle. Although Gali still in 5th place. Still in championship winning position. And now with nothing but free air between me and Chuck, the gap with 10 laps to go is 14.4 seconds. I've got 75% of my battery on board. And at this point, it became kind of a balancing act. Do I need to burn battery to close him down, or should I try and, burn enough battery that I still have enough to use in an attack? Because it's likely that it will be kind of a last lap catch up unless he pits or has a puncture. But I'm not expecting DRS to be something that's going to help me. It's going to have to be a raw on-track overtake. I should catch up to him with some fresher rubber on the car. Only about 12 laps old at the end. So I should have some margin in the tires, at least grip-wise. But they will be starting to reach their fall-off point since their life is about 14 laps. But we're going to keep jumping ahead. So at lap 18, crossing the line, 13.6 seconds the margin. Still lapping in the 33 zeros. We can see I've burned a fair amount of battery last lap, down to about 60%. Now jumping ahead, lap 19. 11.5, we burned a lot more battery. We do a 32.3, so we're about 7/10 quicker that lap. You can see the battery now down to about 35%. I'm going to skip lap by lap here. You can see the time coming down. Now 10.2 the margin with 7 laps to go. Still about even on it, a 32.9. So you can see not using as much battery, not getting as much lap time. I believe Chuck was lapping at about the 34.1s around here. So I was getting about a second and change. You can see lap 22, we've got a 9.2 second gap. And I am starting to charge the battery up just a little bit. You will see the full final 3 laps. So no battery usage really on that lap. 33.1, we're down to 8.1 seconds to Chuck with about 5 laps left to go in this race. Lap 24, got about nearly 50% on board, a 32.8. Now it's down to 7 seconds the margin. So we are catching at over a second per lap, but it is getting fairly dicey. So here is the final stretch of the race. Starting lap 25, we've done another 32.8, about even on the battery spend. So I wanted to keep about 40% of the battery in the pack. It's only about 5 seconds now, the margin. Over the course, Gali's now gotten into third. There was a tangle between Chronicle and Dog as Chronicle tried to overtake Dog through into 130R. That was one thing that did go to the stewards, although Chronicle did now take the fastest lap point away from us. Not that it really mattered as far as Gali's situation goes compared to us. But yeah, so it was determined that in the situation between Dog and Chronicle, where Dog was, being quite the robust defender for me, as there's a barrier flipping out over there. Chronicle did not have the sufficient overlap into 130R, stuck his nose up. Contact was made between both of them, so it was determined to be at fault of Chronicle. It was a close one, but in the end, it did offer some breathing space. But you can see I've closed it now down over the course of this lap to 3.3 seconds. We're going to have 2 full laps left to go at the line. Set a purple first sector. Not improving in the second sector as we were starting to save some battery. And I'm starting to feel the tires go off at this point. And Chronicle picks up a 3-second track limits penalty on the exit of Spoon there, it looks like. But at this point, I'm just trying to go for the race win. Maybe Gali crashes out if I'm significantly lucky. But at this point, Gali has, Zhao is 42 seconds off the back. So he's got, 25 seconds between Gali and Zhao. Not even counting that there's only 8 runners left and Gali needs to finish 7th. So it would take quite a bit for Gali. He just needs to bring it home safely at this stage of the race. Meanwhile, I'm still going for the race win because we came into this race tied with Chronicle and Robin on 3 race wins apiece in the season. So a race win here would break that tie, give us the solo lead of wins. And as it stands, if I finish second, I will come home third in the championship standings behind Chronicle. But if I win, I will come home second behind Golly, at least close the gap up a little bit more. So still pushing very hard for the race win here. You can see I've spent a decent amount of the lap saving some battery, burning a bit of it now. Went green in the first sector without a huge spend of the battery, which is nice. We didn't gain time in the middle sector, at least to our personal best, which was on much fresher tires, the 32.3. You can see we've now got 1.4 seconds the gap to Chuck. We did a 32.5, which is still a solid lap for this age of tire. And now the last lap, our last opportunity to try and go for the race win here. So we've got to try and catch Chuck as quickly as we can. He's hanging on to the tires somehow. I don't know how he's kept those mediums alive as long as you can see I'm understeering and struggling a bit even on my tires. But I still have more life left, and I'm at this stage. I'm not worried about a puncture. I think Chuck does have to worry about potentially puncturing those tires. We get inside 1 second now, but of course we're not going to have any DRS available to us. You can see tire light warning coming up on our MFD on the bottom right, that little orange circle. That means one of our tires is now over 60% wear. So we are getting to the nitty gritty as far as tires goes. But coming out of the hairpin, now the gap about half a second. We got 34% in the battery at the moment as we come into Spoon. We'll get a little bit of it back under the braking. A little bit of a bobble from Chuck entering Spoon, the front end not hooking up. And now down the hill into 130R. Burning a fair bit of battery. I don't think we're going to get him alongside into 130R. So we actually switch off, disable overtake, tuck in a little bit of a lift now. Power in. We're going to try and take. He defends the inside, so we're going to try and take the outside. He moves back onto the racing line as we have a piece of the car alongside him, and that is what I was concerned why this video did not come out very quickly. So, according to FRS rules, if you take a defensive line, if you come back to the racing line, you must leave a car's width if there is a car attempting to break into that area. The rules guideline is 3 car lengths. I was much closer than that. Ultimately, the steward's decision was unanimous that Chuck would get a 5-second time penalty. He appealed that because why not? It's the last race of the season. He can use his appeal token, but the appeal was also unanimous. So, in the end, I take the race win from Chuck. But the man on screen in the Alpine, Mr. Gali, is the Season 7 Division 2 champion. Solid drive into third place on the podium for the final race of the season. Never really in doubt after my crash out in Spa really harmed my championship chances. And then, of course, the dismal showing in Austin really hurt that. But Gali is your Division 2 champion for Season 7. It was a fun season, picking up my first pole position and wins in FRS. Of course, our first time not being in a top split because we were cross-played. So we were racing people more kind of our pace. But final standings do end up being myself with the win, Chuck in P2, Gali P3, Chronicle in P4. Even his time penalty for his tango with Dog does not cost him anything. He does grab that fastest lap point, 32.2. So just a little quicker than our 32.3. Zhao in P5. Stolen Valor, good solid P6. Dog, Peter Ward rounding out the runners in 7th and 8th. Onyx, Ayag, and Robin all failing to finish this race, unfortunately. But thank you guys so much for joining me over the course of this season. It was a fun season. Our first real opportunity at a championship fight. I definitely got ahead of myself in the initial parts of the season. Got a little antsy, but middle part of the season settled in, and I think I had a decent run at the end. Of course, home race curse always happens to me. Coda was just bad luck all around, essentially getting shunted by a desync, which technically probably should have been a red flag, but I wasn't going to call it because I was the only one really affected by it. And of course, the Austin race bad luck with the with the weather never ever turning to wet and having to suffer on inters. But thank you guys so much for this season. F123 is coming out, or is out at this point, and so we are getting geared up for testing in F123 and Season 8, hopefully around the corner soon. But I will catch you guys next time. Thank you so much. Peace out.